Welcome! It's been almost 2 weeks since I promised to upload another video on Spain and the New World, so it's time for us to return to this subject. We've seen how Spain established its colonial empire, how the Aztec and Inca empires fell. Now I'll explain what happened to all the wealth the kingdom had gained and how it was essentially wasted. After the fall of the two great empires, a chain of viceroyalties were established on the continent, that of New Spain, Peru, Rio de la Plata, and New Granada. Exploitation of the new territories began, with more settlers and militiamen arriving from Spain. Demographics was a problem. The native population was almost wiped out by the European diseases. The number of Spanish settlers was relatively low, which is why African slaves were needed. We know that the Spanish were after gold and silver. Although some were seeking a new life, many wanted the riches that these undiscovered lands promised. It's no surprise that after sacking the imperial capitals, they established their own mines in Bolivia and Mexico and started transporting the precious metals back to Spain. Another important factor was the gold and silver shortage in Europe, which only these new Spanish-American and Portuguese-African sources could alleviate. New Spain also provided other interesting goods like sugar, cocoa, and indigo, while the new kinds of vegetables like potatoes and paprika were not yet widely used. Spain was profiting from the new trade routes, but at the same time, its society was not ready to enjoy all the benefits, and the measures that the royal administration implemented did not support long-term development. The immediate introduction of a sales tax and import-export duties did not promote commerce. Instead, they gave rise to widespread smuggling. Later on, tiny Dutch, French, and English settlements in the Caribbean region prospered, while the enormous Spanish colonial empire was lagging behind, at least economically. Because of the centuries-long Reconquista, Spanish society was malformed. It consisted of a large nobility, a politically powerful clergy, and a massive class of peasants or serfs. The aristocracy controlled almost everything. The kings of Spain tended to support them instead of banks and new enterprises, especially when those banks wanted to get their money back from the royals. They even kicked out the Jews and the Moors, further weakening the already small middle class. The lesser nobility was particularly large. Most of them did not have land. Soldiering was their only source of income, which gave them the best incentive to seek new adventures in the Americas. The peasants were essentially powerless, with no representation and no hope for a better future, which is why some of them tried their luck in the New World. As the newly mined Bolivian and Mexican silver poured into Europe, it was spent on luxury goods and other products provided by Dutch, English, and French merchants. The incoming treasures that the Spanish fleet transported through the Atlantic just as quickly left Spain as the aristocracy purchased other European and Asian products. Silver was actually flowing to China at this time because Europe could not offer anything else for the silk and porcelain that only the Asian giant could provide. Of course, this silver was also maintaining the Spanish military, both the army and the navy, which for a brief period were the best in the world. Even during the era of Spanish domination, there were significant setbacks. Once the Dutch War of Independence started in 1568, the area could not be fully pacified, which eventually led to the recognition of the Netherlands. The 17 provinces were already economically more developed than Spain. They quickly showed what you could achieve with commerce-friendly policies, establishing their own trade routes to Africa, India, Indonesia, and Brazil. Just before the Iberian Union was established, in which Portugal and Spain were essentially united under the rule of Philip II, the Ottoman navy had finally been defeated in the Battle of Lepanto, but Philip had to declare bankruptcy 4 times. The Spanish fleet was also no longer master of the seas. In 1588, they famously lost against the English, and a subsequent storm, Although the Philippines were conquered around the same time, and the Spanish army remained feared until the 1640s, the end of the 30 Years' War. Instead of improving the economy and supporting commerce, the state focused on religion and imposed restrictions on immigration, excluding Jews, Protestants, and foreigners. Although mixed marriages between whites, natives, and Africans were very common in the colonies. As long as they remained Catholic, it was all fine. Unlike in Africa, the natives who converted to Catholicism in Spanish America enjoyed some legal protection. Much of the local hierarchy was also retained. Native noblemen, who remained loyal to the Spanish, filled administrative positions, while the Catholic Church amassed land and wealth, becoming an important economic actor. The Spanish crown wanted to create a closed economic system in which they would control all trading. This didn't happen. Spain simply didn't have enough capital to invest in the new territories, so pretty soon, commercial houses and banks in Germany, Italy, the Netherlands, France, and England had to supply goods and capital to expand trade and profit from it. The silver and other goods that arrived from Spanish America simply flowed through Spain and enriched these other countries who were more ready to take advantage of the new routes. Throughout the 17th century, Spain maintained its overseas empire, but the decline was noticeable. As all the money was spent on more wars to defend the Catholic faith and expand the empire, the country enjoyed only a few years of peace. Bankruptcy was declared again and again, and Dutch traders were undermining Spanish positions all over the world. The famous treasure fleet was captured in 1628 near Cuba. Portugal achieved independence, and by the 1650s, France was the dominant power on the continent, while the Dutch dominated the Atlantic. The Great Plague of Seville killed roughly 5% of Spain's population. Then the last Habsburg king, Philip IV, lost 3 wars against the France of Louis XIV, which cost the empire more European territories. The administration was unable to improve the situation, so Spain slowly lost its great power status. To sum up, we can say that the circumstances that allowed Spain to be the first to colonize the New World eventually led to its decline. Its society and economy were not ready to properly employ the new resources they gained in the Americas. These precious metals and exotic goods enriched the northern countries that were in a better position to invest capital and keep most of the profit, even before they started to establish their own settlements. It's not a coincidence that the Dutch Golden Age started in the early 1600s, immediately after independence from Spain was achieved. I will talk about the Dutch in another video. In the next episode, I'll take a look at the establishment and eventual decline of the Portuguese colonial empire. We'll see each other soon.